Hello, I'm live. Hello. So my name is Cindy and thank you for coming to this video. And I have a lot to do today, but I just wanted to take a few minutes to come on live and just give an update of what's going on in my world. And I wanted to share some encouragement because I've been enjoying a YouTuber lately. This is a broadcaster who is very well known, especially by people in New England. You might know who this is. And her name is Mel Robbins. And this is a video that I've been watching. It's called 4 Habits for Energy, Productivity, and Happiness That Changed My Life. And the first thing she talked about today was music. So it really got me thinking about music and how much that can help us, change our mood, help lift us up, give us something bright to think about for the day, maybe to just heal our negative thoughts and things like that. And I wanted to share a little bit about music in my own life and just for a few minutes. So the story is that music can be something that really helps you in your mood. And that's my phone. I'm just going to let it ring for now. So that's my landline. We still have a landline. Do you guys? Oh, Rebecca says she's listened to Mel Robbins as well. And teacher Kelly loves music. And I think that as teachers, a lot of times we need something that kind of just brings us into calmness, because there's a lot of negativity in this world. There's a lot of negativity associated with teaching. Like right now, we're thinking about, oh, I can't wait till school starts. I can't wait to get going with the students and everything. And then once school starts, I think the beginning of the year is really great. And then as time goes along, it just gets really hard. We have to face the problems and solve a lot of problems and try to do the best for the students, make sure they all learn what they're supposed to learn. It's a big responsibility to play a part in any student's life at any given year. And so so I was thinking about music in my own life. Right now it's kind of quiet in my house, so it's so different than how I've been living the last 40, well, probably about 30 years, 30 so years. I've been married for 40 years, but we didn't even have any children for the first 3 years. But my whole life, I've played music. So I started piano lessons when I was in second grade. My mom, I don't know how she got a hold of this person, but my mother's not really musical, but she had it in her head that she wanted me to play piano. My brother started by playing trumpet. And so she just had this thing that she never really told me why. We weren't really going to a church because like right now I do church stuff and I see the value of knowing how to play an instrument. But when I was growing up, really young, we didn't really go to church where they played instruments, so I don't know how she really got the idea. But in the neighborhood I lived in, I was only in second grade, and I could get on my bike, put my books in my backpack, and I had to grab my slippers because my piano teacher was Chinese, and she always wanted us to take our shoes off at the door. So I always had to bring my slippers, and sometimes I would forget. I was only in second grade. So she always had a pair ready for me if I forgot my slippers. And so I did that for about 2 years, and it was a real blessing. She was a very interesting person. She wasn't majorly talk talkative. It was all business. You go in, you put your slippers on, you go down to the basement where her piano was, and you had your lesson, and then you got on your bike and you rode your bike home. And so it was an interesting experience, but that's how I started piano lessons. And so then when I was so she's saying, "I'm not thinking that. You're not thinking about school and how things are gonna go." So then when I was in we actually moved from that neighborhood, and then I went to another neighborhood, and loved piano. So I found another piano teacher that was close by, and sometimes my mom drove me, but sometimes I rode my bike to that teacher as well. And then I started flute lessons, and that was at the public school. And I really loved that. And I loved band. I loved how you could get together in a group and you could have different instruments. And one thing I have to say that my mom did for us was she kept a quiet home. Like, we were very much home. We didn't do a lot of extra activities on a daily basis, but we did. It was just enough. The house was quiet, and she was very much a homemaker, and we had little activities here and there, but I did have a quiet time to be able to practice. And it seemed like a year. I would sit down and 15 minutes seemed like an hour when you're a little kid. But she always made it so that we had the quiet time to do things that we needed to do. And so I would practice my piano. I was supposed to do that half hour every day. And then once I started flute, I went into junior high. I was supposed to practice for an hour a day. That was really hard. Once you got going, though, on the harder stuff, an hour went by pretty quick. And so music was a huge part of my life personally. I had an older brother and a younger sister, and we weren't always doing things together. So I had a lot of time to myself to be able to work on these types of things. And when I was in junior high, we did go to church, and because I knew how to play the piano, I was the church pianist in junior high, and I didn't even know how to play that well. But it was either I play the piano or nobody plays the piano. So what happened was the person who was in charge of leading music would just ask me to learn a couple songs and tell him what songs I learned. And then those were the songs that we played, like, for services. Sunday morning, I went Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. So I played the piano for my church for a few years. And then actually we had a new pastor come in, because what happened was our pastor had left and his wife had played the piano. But then we had a new pastor come in, and his wife didn't know how to play the piano, and none of the kids knew how to play piano either. So I kept playing for a while until I actually went to a boarding high school. So the boarding high school was very musical, and they didn't have instruments. Like, I didn't have a flute teacher, but they did have a piano teacher, and we also sang in choir. So throughout my high school years, I sang in a choir. We practiced every single day because it was an overnight school. So we got up, we had breakfast, then we went to practice choir. I think it was like at 8 o'clock. And then I think we started regular classes at like 10 till 9, something like that. And so we practiced every day. And in the spring, for spring break, we had, instead of having 1 week in February, 1 week in April, we had 2 weeks in April somewhere. And for one of those weeks, we went on choir tour. And for the other week, we had a vacation week. So for choir tour, we would go around to different churches and we would sing. We had like a program. We would sing songs, do little skits, and it was usually a church type situation. There was a message to it. And I remember the first year it was all about heaven and all of the aspects of heaven and going to heaven, songs about heaven. It was really amazing. So that's my musical life as a child. And then I went off to college, and I sang in choir all through high school, and I went to college, Bob Jones University, which is very big on music. And I went for math education, strangely enough. I didn't think I could do music. Like, I didn't think I would be good enough to be able to play the piano like they played or play the flute like they play. And so and the also there was lots of hours involved. Like, if you went as a piano major, you had to practice, like, 10 hours a week or something, and it just didn't seem doable to me, so I went ahead and I majored in math education because I wanted to be a teacher, and then I tried out for the choir and I didn't make it. Like, I wanted to sing soprano, but my voice is more like a second soprano type voice. So, I didn't make it, so it was very disappointing, but then I picked up my flute and I said, "Why don't I try out for the flute choir?" And so my roommate and I, we both tried out for a couple choirs. Both of us came back to the room and we're like, "I didn't make it. I didn't make it." So then we went this 3rd time, we're like, "We're gonna try out for this other choir. I'm gonna try out for this choir. You're gonna try out for that choir." And we left the room and we came back. And I told her, "I have something to tell you." She said, "I have something to tell you too." I said, "I did not try out for the choir. I just couldn't do it. I just, like, I didn't wanna be disappointed once again." She said, "I didn't either." And I said, "I made it into the flute choir, though." I took my flute and I practiced and brought my flute, and I got a place in the flute choir. Now, the flute choir was, like, 30 girls, and we all played flute, and the director would write music. She wrote her own music, and she would write it for three-part harmony with just flutes. It was amazing. And then, my roommate told me she had joined the college band, and she was gonna play the percussion. So she, went for she's gonna play bass drum, but she also was able to play other percussion instruments. And she also had a music background. She was an organist, and she had taken organ lessons, and so she was so it was really great. So I was in the flute choir, she was in the, college band, and so we both really enjoyed our experiences with that. And, I'm telling you right now, I've never seen a flute choir or ever experienced it quite that way. Now, one of the churches I went to through my history, did have a small flute choir, and that was pretty cool. That was when, I might have had, like, 2 little kids at the time, and so it was kinda hard to be a part of it, but I was able to be a part of it a little bit in the church. I think that at that time, it might have been 8 or 10 flutes that played. So I did get to use my flute through the years. We also were in a town band, me and some of my other children, and so I was able to use my flute for that as well. So it's been a career of a lot of music. And so in Mel Robbins' discussion, she has more of a secular type background. And I have more of like a religious background with music. I've not been in the secular world at all. So I don't know a lot of the secular music. I might have heard it at the grocery store, but mostly what I've focused my music career on is a lot of classical from my piano and a lot of religious music or hymns and hymnology and God-centered music. So it has been a sort of a therapy down through the years. Now, my oldest daughters, they all played the violin. So it's kind of a really long story, but my before I even had kids, I had told my mother-in-law that I want my kids to play the violin. I have no idea why, but it just was something I really never played myself, so I thought, "I want my kids to play the violin." And so she said, "Hey, Kathy." And so my mother-in-law was like, "Violin? I have a violin." Now, I think we were engaged or married. We might have been newly married at the time because she went up in her attic and she actually pulled down this violin that her uncle had made for her cousin because her cousin was a violinist. So this is a true story. So she gives me the violin and it had no strings on it. It was handmade and it was in a case. It was kind of dusty. It hadn't been used in years. And none of her kids had even wanted it or talked about it, and she gave it to me. So this violin like traveled with me. We When I was first married, we had moved to a couple different apartments, and I just remember, I just had a little bit of stuff to move from one place to the other, and I always had that violin coming along, coming along, coming along. We were married 3 years, then we had our first child. When my first child was 3 years old, um, we were going to a church in Wisconsin. Now, keep in mind, I'm from New Hampshire, went to college in South Carolina. My parents moved to Wisconsin, and we ended up going to this church in Wisconsin with my parents, whose daughter was in 8th grade, and she was starting violin lessons for like, I don't know, $4 for a half hour or something crazy like that. I'm like, I have a violin. I can have my daughter take violin lessons for that price. I can take that out of my grocery money. So I pulled the violin out. My parents brought it to a guy at the church who fixed it up, put strings on it, got a bow, everything. And then we realized it was way too big for her. She's only 3. So I had no idea there were different sizes of violins. So then we learned that we were going to have to get her a tiny violin. But she started out with a box violin, which is you make it out of a small box, and they just learn how to hold it, and they do some strokes when they're only 3. And so we did all that, and eventually we got violins. That's all another story because everything was starting to go online. So we were able to buy some really inexpensive ones from California, and we would order them, and then we would actually buy them for like $150 or something. And then it turned out we could pass them down to the next kid, to the next kid. And so, yeah, so we had at one point we had 5 girls doing the violin, but my oldest is the one who stuck to it the longest. I really would like to see my second daughter, Julie, get herself a violin and get busy, relearning her violin, but she hasn't really been that interested in it. But at one point we had 3 of the girls in violin lessons, the oldest 3, and they were also in orchestra in town. That's all a long story too, how that all worked out, but trying not to make it too long of a story. But the therapy is that, they practiced Suzuki method, which is you repeat the same songs like every day. So you learn the strokes, you learn, perfect pitch, you learn so many things just by playing the same things. And they didn't really even learn how to read music right away. They did mostly by ear. And then where we live now, we have a nursing home right up the street. And so there's a lady in town who said, "Could you come to the nursing home once a month and just minister to the people there?" And she didn't really care what we did as long as we did something. So sometimes we'd go up and we would sing like I remember one time we did all songs about Jesus, like Jesus loves me, I love to tell the story, little songs like that. And then we would just shake hands with all the residents and just, stay for half hour to an hour. And then there were times where I was home with little kids and I would just tell my girls, just take your violins, go up and just do your practice lesson at the nursing home. And they would do it. They were like maybe 10, 8, and 6, and they're walking up the street with their violins and playing for the people at the nursing home. So those are really good memories. So we would do that, and Christmas time we would go to nursing homes, usually one big one near us and a couple other nursing homes that we would go to and play songs. And the people just really loved it. They loved to see the kids and they loved the music. So we actually did some other nursing home appointments throughout the years. And we were also part of a handbell choir and I have some on my YouTube channel, some of the music that my kids were able to play handbells with a homeschool family in town. So this homeschool family, they had their own set of handbells, and they reached out to other homeschoolers and they said, "Would you like to join us and we will teach you how to do it?" I can't even remember it costing anything. It might have cost a little bit, but not much. And they used it as a learning experience for their family. And we were able to work on some songs. We did this for 2 years. And at Christmas time, we played songs. And the first year, we played simpler songs. And then because we did it for 2 years, we were able to add techniques. And they had a great time with that. And that was homeschooling. And then when I went to the school, the first school that I taught at, they happened to have a set of handbells and they used that in their music class. Now, those of you who teach special needs, the handbells are a really great tool for for kids because you only play like one note at a time, and so they can work together and just learn when your note is going to be played. And then so you get a lot of experience with different tones and technique and playing together and playing a song when you're only playing one or two notes at a time. It's really a great experience. So they do have like expensive sets of bells, but they also have some inexpensive sets that you could get if you just have like a small group or you want to just try it out. So those are some things, and music really does improve your mood, and it doesn't have to be, um I mean, these days we have so many options, right? And I really like traditional Christian music. I like the traditional types of stuff, but Mel Robbins was talking about how, music of the past, when you were in a good situation, like say she mentioned graduation or wedding or some kind of, for me, I can remember in my I went to Bob Jones University, they came out with a movie called Sheffy, and that movie was all about a circuit rider preacher that would go around the country at that time, and he would minister to people in different areas, remote areas, um, in I don't even know what states. I'm thinking southern states like Virginia, and he would just go to people who can't get out, and this whole movie was put together and they wrote their own music, so they had their own soundtrack. And I can remember playing that soundtrack while we were driving back and forth to college, and it meant a lot. So whenever I hear that music, it brings me right back to those times. So we can bring ourselves back to times where we had learned those songs. For me also, we sing hymns at our church, so when I pull out certain hymns, it brings me back to the person who requested that certain hymn every time, and the good times that we had singing those hymns. And the favorite hymns, I know one of my dad's favorite hymns was Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. And I remember him singing that. I remember his voice singing that song. I know that my grandmother, one of her favorite songs was Jesus Paid It All. And when she was in the nursing home and she was really in her last days, I brought a hymn book to her because I found when I tried to sing them off of my head and I wasn't so emotional, it was hard to remember the words. So I would bring the hymn book with me and I sang her some of her favorite songs. And one of the songs that I sang for her when she was actually passing away was Jesus Loves Me, This I Know. So whenever I hear that song, I think about my little kids when I would rock them and I would sing that song and they would go to sleep. And then I think about my grandmother when she was actually in her last moments of life. I was singing that song to her. I think of so many situations that we sang songs. And recently with our, you know, family tragedy, I call it because it's so hard to talk about. It's been hard. Music has been really hard. But last night, I was able to go to my mom's and I was able to put on a church service, so that she could be blessed, because she's living alone. But she was able to listen to good music. We have a church service, we can do it online, and we do it remotely because we have people that are far away or people that don't want to drive out late at night. And, we're able to play the music for them and, teach them some comforting scriptures, you know. And music is hard for me right now. And my mom, she's emotional when she hears music. But, I'm learning it's okay to have emotions and to acknowledge the emotions and to embrace them because life is going to be full of good times and bad times. And it's part of the human experience. That's what I'm saying these days, when things happen. Um, Previous years, I would be shocked and I would be, "Oh my goodness, this is so terrible," or "This is," you know, everything good and bad is part of the human experience. And for now, I'm alive and I'm well, and it's time to embrace the good, embrace, how can we get through the hard times. Hey, Carrie, you got me. We're talking about music and how it can help us through the hard times and how it can encourage us. And right now I'm kind of emotional, but you know, music when you're younger, it's like exciting. I learned how to play the piano, I learned how to play the flute. I love to learn things. I think music is good for children. I would recommend every child to take music lessons. It grows your brain. I'm a math person, but I also am I think music, it organizes your, I don't know, there's something neurological about it. I haven't really studied all about it, but they say the more music that you listen to, even like classical music and music that is good for your brain. I think there's good music and bad music, honestly. But there's good classical music, good Christian music that can help your brain to just give you encouragement and uh, help your mood and everything else, calm your spirit. I have a few videos on my channel. I was looking at some this morning. My daughter who played the piano, my oldest daughter plays piano. She plays really well. And my seventh daughter, she plays really well, like classical music. She's probably one of the best piano players in our family. My son, my oldest boy, also plays piano. He plays really well and he sings. I have some of his videos on my channel as well. I wish I had all of the music. Like I wish I had all of the recitals that my kids have done that I could look back on. But my house is quiet now. I used to have violins playing all the time and always some kind of music in my house. And since we had the family tragedy, music has been hard. And whenever I hear it, I don't know what it is because I'm not associating it. I think it's just having the feelings and the emotions coming up. It just brings hard feelings up, but it also brings good feelings up. And it's all part of the human experience. So personally, I love classical. I love traditional Christian hymns. Not really as much. I like the modern praise music, but not constantly. I find my kids kind of like a more of a music with a beat in the modern Christian music. But to me, it's kind of makes it so I can't concentrate. Like, if I'm in the car and I have the loud Christian music, I like it in the sense that it brings me happiness, like, it ups my emotion and makes me happy kinda thing. But when I'm driving, it kind of like, "Where are we going? What are we doing?" So, I don't know, it's just not as comforting to me, but if I hear it, I'm trying to keep an open mind that other people do like that type of music. But I was brought up on very conservative type music, and it really gives me calmness in my soul. So, anyway, so my challenge to you is, go listen to some good music and keep it going. For me, it's been like a hard thing to get into. But it is important. And on my channel, I also have a video of my daughter. It's a my granddaughter actually is playing the violin now, and she um had her recital recently, and the song that she played was a Suzuki song. So I have Charity plays the violin, and I also have Asha Khan Farewell Violins. Okay, that song is I didn't realize it, but the violin teacher, this is her last year. I didn't know that, so I don't know if she purposefully had that one played, but she played it with her daughter, who's a concert violinist, and with her grandson. And then my daughter is also playing it with her granddaughter. So it's an amazing moment. For me, it was an amazing moment because my daughter was playing the violin, and she started when she was 3 years old. And we worked on her violin all through the years. And then her daughter is now playing, and she is using the violin that was my mother in law's uncle who made it with his own hands. So I just was looking at that and thinking, this has taken many years to accomplish. And it was quite an amazing moment. So I'm really glad that I got to videotape that. So, Carrie, I collect musical instruments. I need to find a good home for them. Music school. Oh, wow. What instruments do you have? That was my kind of dream, was for me to start a music school. And when my daughter, she was in 8th grade, she started teaching lessons. And she had like 30 students. Like, she had so many students, and they would come to the house, coming and going, coming and going. And then I think twice a year she did like a recital, and it was amazing. She did it all herself. And when she first started teaching, she charged like $4 a half hour. Because I told her it's like a ministry, like, they're giving you a chance to be their teacher, and you're kind of ministering, letting them learn for a low price. So we got a lot of people that wouldn't have paid, hundreds of dollars for a expensive teacher. They paid a lower rate for a younger teacher. And I'm telling you, she was so good. She would make sticker charts. She was great encouraging them. And she can play a lot of instruments. She plays piano, violin, ukulele, guitar, mandolin. She has a mandolin. She loves the mandolin. So actually, I'm going to be going. She lives about an hour from me. So let me know what instruments you have. I'm really interested. I don't have a French horn or a tuba. Oh, I always want to play the French horn. Yeah, because I don't know, they say it's a C instrument, right? My son, let's see, one of my boys played the trumpet, one of my boys played the slide trombone, and I have, let's see, my daughter, child number 5, played the flute like me, so she did pretty good. So let's see. My oldest is the one who plays all the different instruments. My second daughter only did the violin, and now she's just like a career woman. She likes sales. She does sales online for real estate, actually. And then my third, she's not really musical. Um, okay, so my oldest boy, he likes to play anything. He plays piano, guitar, he plays the harmonica, some things like that. And I don't think he does any wind instruments though. And then my fifth child did flute, sixth child did trumpet, seventh child, she wanted to play, she played piano, but then she ended up going into the playing the clarinet because we wanted to play in the town band. So she started clarinet lessons, and she actually did a clarinet competition. I think there were like two clarinets. So let's see, she did piano and clarinet. So I just pulled out some music books that I'm going to bring to her. I don't know if she'll ever, she's pregnant with her second child, so I don't know if she'll pull out the clarinet anytime soon. But you always think those days of being a young mother are going to last forever, but there will be a time that you have some time on your hands. Let's see, clarinet, and then slide trombone. And then the younger ones didn't really get into music because I ended up going to the school, and they were just, they liked sports. You know, the younger ones kind of got more into sports. They like soccer and basketball, and they kind of funneled their energy into those types of things. And then they started working, you know, at the ice cream shop and all of that. So I miss the days of having a quiet house and people just, you know, played their instruments. And those are also the days before all of these electronics came out to take up our time. But anyway, so thanks for this little chat. It was a lot of fun to talk about music and history and thinking about all the fun, the good times that we had in music, and, you know, how much that can be a part of your children's lives as well. So I know Rebecca has young children, and that makes a big difference. Do schools still do band? Yeah, actually, the town that I live in has a pretty good band, and they have had some pretty good music teachers through the years, which I did not partake in because I was homeschooling. But since I'm on the school board now, I've been more focused on, hey, what are they doing over there? So they actually do have a pretty good music program in my town, and they've done some really good. They had this past year, they had a concert, and they call it a monster concert, where they just do any kind of like variety of music. And they had a whole choir of the recorders. And at one point in time, I had asked to do a recorder choir at a school I was at, and one of the teachers told me that would not work. Like, that's a stupid instrument. People hate it. So I was like, really? I don't see it that way. And honestly, this past year at the public school in my town, they had an amazing recorder choir. It was really great. So, yeah, so some schools do. It is kind of a, you know, it's one of those variables that sometimes schools are canceling because they want to save a few dollars. But when I was in school, we had band, and kids were encouraged to go get their own lessons at their private lesson places and then come together and we'll do band. But I think nowadays parents expect more. They want your student to learn everything at the school, learn their instrument, go to band there, do your lessons there, the whole 9 yards. And I don't think that's as, you don't get as far in your instrument as when you do your own lessons, either private lessons, or now you can do it online. You can even do music lessons on outschool.com. You can do music lessons online. I have taught piano online actually during COVID. I was like, let's try it. And I did beginner piano lessons online. It wasn't bad actually. I mean, I think in person is better for an instrument, but if you're just starting out and you want to just get a taste of it, you could try it. Do that first and then see how it goes. My daughter, actually, one of her daughters did piano online as well. So there's lots of ways to learn. It's just with anything, it's, your once a week lesson and then the practice is what really makes a difference. So Carrie says she was in fife and drum growing up, band in school until high school. They didn't let you borrow instruments in high school. Oh, yeah. You had to. Yeah, that's true. A lot of times nowadays, the schools get donations, but part of having an instrument is the upkeep. So that is another amazing story because when we moved to the place that we're in right now, we had a guy right in the next town over who fixed violins just as a hobby. And he fixed them. He did charge us a little bit of money, but it wasn't bad. And he would fix the bridges, he would fix the strings, and he was amazing. I think he's since passed away, and they just sent letters to everybody who had his instruments that they could keep them. And I think he might have donated them to a school. So lots of donations are happening, but you still have to do the upkeep. So that is a big job, right? Too. But yeah. So nowadays you can go to like music stores and you can rent them to own. So if you want to rent it for a year, you pay a certain price. And then if you decide you want to buy it, the money that you pay will go toward the purchase of the instrument, which that's really good. Mom bought my flute in middle school, but I wanted to play saxophone. I borrowed. Yeah, I heard that that's a good instrument to play if you know how to play the flute. Take up the saxophone because I heard the fingering is similar. That is amazing. I always wanted to play the saxophone. I think we should get together, Carrie. I've always wanted to play the saxophone. That is so cool. Yeah, music is a great thing, and I really believe every parent should teach their child music, and I kind of wish my younger kids did more with music. They do all like to sing, but some of them are kind of shy. My one daughter who's in college right now, she played the ukulele and she did like one song for the church, and it was awesome. But she just kind of lost her, like, she just didn't really like being in front of people, which my older kids never seemed to mind. I don't know what happened with the younger ones. But yeah. All right. Well, I have to go, and I appreciate all of the conversation here. Thank you for coming to this video. Thank you for the support for my channel. And I hope to put up another update, teacher life in the summer right now and getting ready for the school year. It's coming fast, actually. It's coming fast. End of August, we're going to be starting. And so in our school, the parent night, we do roll out the red carpet. So we kind of dress up. So my question is, do I want to wear something fancy that I've worn before? Or do I want to what I've done before is go to thrift stores and look at their fancy clothes and buy a fancy dress for $10 is usually what I do. I'll have to get up there someday. Tell your kitties to continue playing even if not in public, right? They'll regret it if they get old and forget how. That's true. Now, I have a guitar that I've been trying to pull out, and actually at our library classic book club last Monday, we talked about Of Mice and Men. It was quite a story. I might make another video on this story, but the guy who was running it plays the guitar and he has a DVD. So I need to play that or a CD rather. I need to play that so I can tell him how much I loved it. But he played a song for us on his guitar, and it was funny. It kind of went along with the book. The book was really kind of tragic book. But it's a classic book club, and next time we're going to be talking about Uncle Tom's Cabin. So I might do another video about the classic book club coming up soon. And I also want to do another video about my Lillian Fox nails. I have a few of these videos on my channel, and this is kind of like a favorite little pastime for me, you know. Every now and then I'll do my nails. These nails have been on for about 4 days, and they look pretty good. There's no chips, and I like it better than the paint on nails that seems to chip like right away, and you don't have to wait for them to dry. So stay tuned for a video on that too. All right, so I will see you next time. Thanks for coming. Have a great day. Bye.